Hi everyone, welcome back to our YouTube channel. This is the Heart Property Managers. My name is Winnie. Today we'll be discussing some of the advantages and disadvantages of owning or buying an apartment. So there are three factors that influence the choice of apartment that many consumers buy. The choices are influenced by the following points. One is income. How much income do you have? And what kind of apartment will you be able to afford? So you either choose to invest in high end, middle class, or low class because there's availability in all these areas. Now, when you talk about affordable housing, they're doing apartments up to 2 million shillings, and then you have high end apartments that go up to 54 million shillings. So it depends on the income, the money that you have, will influence the kind of apartment that you buy. The second thing that will influence your choice of an apartment will be personal preference. There are people who prefer to purchase apartments on ground floor, maybe looking at it futuristically in future if you grow old and you don't want to take the staircase. Some people prefer to buy apartments where there are just few units. Why? Because probably they don't like crowded places. Other people prefer apartment which comes with a lot of amenities because they have small children, they need a playground, they need a swimming pool, they need a gym where they can go. Other people are influenced by accessibility to schools where they can purchase an apartment where the children can be able to go to school easily. Other people are influenced by their preference are influenced by accessibility to work. All these factors influence, and it's individual preferences that will influence the choice of where they invest in the apartment. The second thing, like I said, preference, income, and lifestyle. So I've mentioned about the schools and the workplaces. And also, for example, if someone is moving a lot, or maybe you are still young, you'd probably just choose to buy an apartment or a studio, for example, in a certain location as you continue to grow yourself. So maybe after you've grown, you can choose to move to a one bedroom and then eventually move to a three bedroom or even build your own house. So income, your lifestyle, your personal preference will ideally influence the kind of apartments that you buy. So let us go into the video and discuss some of the advantages and disadvantages of owning an apartment. So the number one reason why an apartment might be advantageous compared to owning an own home is affordability. When you look at the market right now in Kenya, there are apartments from the value as low as 1.5 million for a one bedroom, all the way, like I said, up to 54 million, depending on where you choose to buy it. And affordability, we look at it like when you buy an apartment, it is a ready to move in. You don't have to deal with development, you don't have to deal with security issues. A lot of things are factored in when you move in an apartment. When you buy an apartment, you'll find there's already organized security. The only thing you need to take care of is your own utility bill. So you don't have to worry about security. You don't have to worry about external maintenance, which is covered in other costs that you'll be paying for. You just move in and, you know, and the apartment definitely will be easier to manage because you'll buy space that you need. You don't, unlike when you're building, a lot of people, you're influenced by what you see, maybe the neighborhood, and you probably build more and spend more money that probably you didn't have to. So apartments are more affordable, and I know that is debatable. They are more affordable compared to own compound houses. The second reason, which I've kind of hinted on the first reason on affordability, is low maintenance. So unlike an on compound space, you need to have security. Some people will have to develop a perimeter wall. You have to maintain your own compound. If you have water issues, you have to manage that by yourself. You cannot just wake up today and decide that in your own compound house that you built that you want to move elsewhere. It involves a lot of planning. It's not something that you can just abandon. Unlike an apartment where if for one reason or another you cannot no longer stay or you can no longer manage it, you can rent it and get income. So apartments are more low maintenance compared to own compound houses, which require much more in terms of security, just general maintenance, and even development in an on-compound house is quite expensive compared to an apartment. The third reason why an apartment is probably better than an on-compound house is security. If you visit many of the apartment blocks in town, there is always a common security. So you check in there, you have to notify the guard where you're going, who you're visiting, and the person in some apartments must also be notified that there's a guest that is coming to their space. So in an on-compound house, you need to employ your own security, and you need to pay that security yourself. If you're doing electric fencing, it's the same thing. If you're your general compound maintenance, it's still on you. So the apartments have an advantage that it's a gated community. There are so many people, and so it feels secure. You're not on your own. There is a neighbor next door. You are not too exposed, if I can put it correctly. If you live in an apartment compared to an on-compound house, the security is better and the risks are minimized because you are many people sharing the same common entry and exits. The other reason why people consider buying apartments is because of shared amenities. Like I said, if you need to purchase or build your own home, remember you have to put in the effort of thinking about your family. So if you need a swimming pool, a gym, some of these amenities are already available in apartment blocks. So you don't need to factor in expenditure for these particular amenities. You have shared common parking, shared gym, shared clubhouse, shared swimming pool area, shared security. So most of the amenities are shared. So that definitely cuts in a lot of costs. And of course, you have a whole community that you share these things with. The other reason, and I think from what I've explained why the apartments are better compared to own single home houses, is because now of having a whole lot of community. If you have children, for example, they can have grow up with a whole, there's no loneliness, let me say. Even for adults, you can always take a walk, you have a neighbor, you have a common swimming pool, you can make new friends if you live in an apartment block, unlike when you have an on compound house where if you're alone, you're alone in your own compound, in your own gate. Even if anything is happening to you, nobody might know what is going on in your own compound. So you constantly need to maybe have a security person. But in apartment block, because of the close proximity of houses, it is usually easy for someone to detect that I haven't seen my neighbor for quite some time. They can check on you. They can you can find someone that you can call on upon in case you have any emergency, because most people who live in apartment blocks have even activities that they do in common. They have birthday parties, they have regular court meetings and all that. So it's easy to know what is happening. You have a small community away from your regular community. So those are some of the advantages that uh, having an apartment compared to an on-compound house we have today. But if you have any other advantage that you think of, if you're in an apartment and you see any other advantage that an apartment have over an on-compound unit, you can also add them to the comment section so that we can have more advantages and encourage more people to purchase apartment. Because as you see, the capital city, as of now, they are beginning, I think it was approved that we can now build more floors, I think going up to 25 floors. It only means that more and more people will be seeking accommodation in apartments. Of course, naturally, by in terms of urban planning, it is expected that the capital city should have most multi-story dwelling places than single homes, because land is not expanding. You know, the population in the capital city is increasing, but the land has remained the same. So it's only natural that going forward, we'll get more skyscrapers, more apartments coming in. But before you get into an apartment, you need to know what are some of the advantages, what are some of the disadvantages. And for now, let us move to the disadvantages of owning an apartment in Nairobi or any other city in Kenya. One of the disadvantages of, or the one that has brought the most disputes in apartment ownership, is the service charge, or in a better term, I can say the cost of management. And the cost of management, as I've seen it even in not just apartment, but even townhouses that are shared, it has brought a lot of dispute because as people buy apartments, it is never indicated how much service charge will be or what cost will go to capex. Capex is capital expenditure. The capital expenditure is what the management team or the company that is doing management or the residents that are doing management spend on major upgrades. For example, if you need to drill an extra borehole or if you need to change the solar system, major expenditures. So different gated communities or different apartment blocks come with different fees. In most cases, I find it that the many the apartments, the lower the management fee. But nowadays, it depends on the extra amenities that we all love. We all love to get an apartment which has a swimming pool, a jacuzzi, a steam, a play area for children, and all these other beautiful amenities, the non-key, the fingerprint thumb entry and exit kind of thing. But these things come with a cost. And when this cost is passed on to you after you purchase your apartment, you begin to say, oh my God, I did not bargain for this. This is not what I expected. So the conflict in apartments is usually just one of them is the conflict over management fee of the apartments. The other issue with the apartments is because apart from just management fee, you also have to know the status. Like I mentioned in the other video, if you've not watched it, you should go and check about the process of owning or buying a property. So some of the things you need to check when you're buying an apartment is if they've already started the process of getting uh, the title deeds for the individual units, because now it's provided by law that when you buy an apartment, you should get a title deed, not a subtitle or the one they call a shared certificate from the building. So you need to check that. And some of the conflicts that come is because most homeowners or landowners or developers have not prepared themselves with the right documentation that is required by the Ministry of Land to get this title deed. So ensure that at the process of purchasing your apartment, especially now, you already checked that the process of getting a title is already started and it is not something that will come in later, because if it comes in later, once the development is done, the cost might be different. The cost might be different and it might make your ownership not as happy as you'd expected. The other reason why apartments are probably not the best investment or a disadvantage is because of limited control. When you stay in apartments, most of the time, there's what you can do and what you cannot do. And this even comes on your leases when you're renting an apartment. The bylaws of the particular place where you live in or the gated community or estate where you stay will determine the things you can do and the things you cannot do. Many places will tell you, oh, you can't bring a pet here, you can't bring your chicken, you can't bring your cows here, you can't bring your goats to the apartment, you can't make noise up to certain hours in the evening, you can't just be a nuisance to the other people. So those laws limit you. And so if you're someone who would want more space to do things however you want them, then maybe apartment is not for you. Now, the other issue with apartment is the restriction of space and the dispute about parking. If you are purchasing an apartment, please be clear on the sale agreement if the apartment comes with a parking or not. If it does not come with a parking, then do not start causing problems when you move to the apartment and you realize the space right in front of your apartment is not necessarily yours and anybody can use it. And if you have 3 cars, you'll be told you only allocated 1 parking, so you don't know where to take the other 2 cars. So the space is quite restricted, and in some cases, it's not allocated to specific apartments because many people don't check their sale agreement on what you are entitled to or how much space is being sold to you. After you've signed the sale agreement, you cannot go back to it. You'll have to abide by what you agreed on the sale agreement. And some sale agreement, if you find it already attached by the proposed bylaws, if you sign into it, you cannot like go against it on your own. So it's very important for you to check, because within apartments there's very limited space. There's very limited space, unlike an on compound property. So the other thing about apartment is there's no privacy. There's no privacy. Anything you want to do, especially in the shared compound, the only privacy you can get is probably inside your own unit. But even in your unit, there's just the amount of things you can do without a neighbor contacting the security that you are making noise or causing disturbance. So there's no privacy as such. It's a privacy that is controlled and limited to depending on what you're doing. So what you do in an on compound property is not the same as what you do in apartments. So this is all from us today concerning some of the advantages and disadvantages of owning an apartment. Please take a look at some of the apartments we have right now that are selling. Very beautiful apartments in Kilimani, Kileleshwa. We also have some new properties coming up from Kitengela, which I think are very good, which I think are very, very good bargains for you. Until next time, bye bye.